Do you have a washing machine in your home? Yes, right? What would you do if there was no washing machine? You're gonna have to wash your clothes with your hands, right? And that's gonna take much longer. It's a lot more hard work, right? So a washing machine saves us time, doesn't it? Now, do you have a refrigerator? What would you do if there wasn't any refrigerator in your house? You couldn't store any food, and it's gonna take a lot more time and a lot of things. I remember when I was little, we used to boil the milk before putting it in the fridge. And that would take another 20 minutes every day to wash and boil and put away, etc. So a fridge and now all these things that we have, they save us time. Does your car save you time? Yes. Does your computer save you time? Yes. So now let's see let's travel back in time 100 years. A child who lived 100 years ago. He still had to go to school, but he didn't have a washing machine, he didn't have a fridge, he didn't have a car, he didn't have a computer. He had to go, so he had to walk everywhere, wash his clothes with his hands and all these things. Do you think you are saving a lot more time than him? Yes. You have, all these things are meant to be saving you a lot more time than him. But do you have more time than him? Not really, do you? You are still so busy, right? So what happened to all the time that you were meant to have saved? Think about it. Where did all that time go? Maybe much of that time went into other things that this kid didn't have. You know what I'm talking about, right? The games and the TV and computer games and all these things that we wasted time on, hours and hours and hours. Allah gave us these gifts to save our time so we can use it to serve Him by helping other people. We should be able to do a lot more good in the world than that child did 100 years ago because we are meant to have a lot more time than him. But what have we done with that time? We wasted it away. Any time you spend playing games which is more than necessary, which would be like if you're playing for hours and hours, watching lots and lots of TV shows all day, then it's time that you will regret one day. Let me tell you a story what happened to me once. This was when I was back in school many years ago. Now, I had exams and I was actually at my cousin's house and we were studying. She is so brilliant, so mashallah, she was studying with total concentration and I was like really distracted looking here and there. And then there was this movie on the TV. And this was a movie I really wanted to watch. I'd been waiting to watch this movie. And somebody else was watching the movie in another room. So I kept looking outside the door and trying to see the movie every few minutes, and she would tell me, no, Riva, concentrate, and I would still look in there. And then, she told me something that I've never forgotten, and I always remember this whenever I'm about to waste some time. She said to me that, think about it, Riva. Are you ever going to regret not watching that movie? Do you think when you have your exam, you will regret not watching this movie? Like when you're stuck there not being able to answer questions, or when you have your result, do you think you will regret, oh, I wish I had watched that movie? Or will you regret, I wish I had studied more? And the answer is obvious. I don't even care about that movie anymore, right? Who cares about that? So think about it. On the day of judgment, do you think you will regret not having watched more movies or played more games or spent time doing this and that? Or will you regret not having spent more time doing good deeds for the sake of Allah? You might say, oh, I'm just a kid. No. Look at these students. They are children just like you. They are my students. And look at mashallah. In the last 3 weeks, they worked so hard and they raised so much money to sponsor orphan children to look after. So they all have, sort of like adopted these orphans that they're going to look after. They raised hundreds of dollars, $500, $600, $700 to help these children. And so can you. If instead of spending your time in games, you were concentrating or putting away your spare time in doing this little by little, you could do great things. As Allah teaches us in Surah Al-Asr, all of it is in loss except for the time we use for the sake of Allah. Now I will discuss this further in the class. How is everything in loss? and how we should be using our time, inshallah. I will also tell you a very interesting story about a Sahaba who wanted to use his time for good, who really wanted to do a lot of good deeds, but he didn't get to it. And what happened to him after that? But in the meanwhile, I want you to make a plan. Think of 3 things that you wish you would do in the world. Maybe it's building a masjid, maybe it's building an orphanage or a hospital or a school, maybe it's teaching thousands of people. And think of it that you will try to do it before you turn 70 years old. Now, if it's to build a masjid, let's say you need $1 million. Now, divide it into 70 years. So how much do you need to raise every year? And see, maybe you can get started on raising money for that masjid or that school or to help those orphans, whatever you want to do. And instead of spending your time playing games, maybe you can start spending your time in planning how you're going to do it and get cracking on it, get started on it, start raising, even if it's just $1 a month, get started on it. And that would be a much better use of your time.